its multi-billion-dollar purchase of American F-35 fighter jets.
Martin's history began to unravel. Canada moved fast. Defense Minister confirmed that Prime Minister Mark Carney ordered a full review of the planned purchase of 88 F-35s. Only the first 16 aircraft remain locked in. The remaining 72 jets, worth roughly $16 billion, are now up for reconsideration. At the same time, Canada reopened talks with Sweden's Saab, whose Gripen fighters come with an offer to manufacture in Canada and create 12,600 domestic jobs. A pressure tactic meant to close a sale ended up handing Canadian leaders the political cover they had never fully had. This moment did not come out of nowhere. Canada had spent years circling the F-35 program, joining in 2002, stepping away, returning, studying alternatives, and finally signing the deal in June 2023 after an open competition. The Air Force backed the F-35. NORAD planners called it critical. Then came tariff threats, annexation talk, and now warnings about rewriting a 67-year continental defense partnership. So how did a finished deal reach this breaking point so fast? Why is Sweden suddenly winning ground where America once stood unchallenged? And what happens when diplomacy gives way to threats in a defense industry built on trust? The scale of what is unfolding becomes clear only after laying out the numbers and the timing, because this was not a vague plan or a loose promise. In June 2023, Canada signed a formal contract with Lockheed Martin to purchase 88 F-35A fighter jets at a total cost of 19 billion Canadian dollars, which equals about 13.2 billion in United States currency. The agreement was structured with precision. 16 aircraft were scheduled for delivery between 2026 and 2030, with the remaining 72 jets set to arrive by 2032. Canada paid deposits for the first batch, production began, and those aircraft are now locked in. No review, no political shift, and no diplomatic dispute can stop those first 16 jets from arriving. That certainty stands in sharp contrast to the fate of the remaining 72 aircraft, which together represent roughly 16 billion Canadian dollars and now sit at the center of a rapidly escalating political and industrial reckoning. Canada's Defense Minister confirmed that Prime Minister Mark Carney ordered a full review of the contract to determine whether continuing with the F-35 program serves Canada's long-term interests or whether alternatives could deliver greater value, stronger sovereignty, and deeper economic benefits. This review did not emerge from technical failures or cost overruns. It emerged because American political rhetoric turned the F-35 into a liability inside Canada. Public opinion shifted with remarkable speed. 72% of Canadians now support either switching to Sweden's Gripen fighter or maintaining a mixed fleet that reduces reliance on American aircraft. That level of support signals more than hesitation. It reflects a broad mandate to diversify away from American defense suppliers at a moment when trust in the United States as a stable partner has eroded. The political response followed quickly. Industry Minister Melanie Joly began meeting with Lockheed Martin executives to press for stronger commitments to Canadian jobs and industrial participation. At the same time, she openly acknowledged that Canada is in active negotiations with Sweden's Saab, which has offered to bring 12,600 aerospace manufacturing jobs into Canada by assembling Gripen fighters domestically. The contrast between the two offers could not be sharper. Saab arrived with a detailed plan tied to employment, technology transfer, and domestic production. Lockheed Martin responded with carefully worded corporate statements about partnership and shared values with the Royal Canadian Air Force. There was no counterproposal, no expanded jobs package, and no meaningful shift in posture. Instead, pressure came from Washington through diplomatic threats tied to NORAD cooperation, a move that many in Canada interpreted not as negotiation, but as coercion. That pressure has had the opposite effect of what American officials appear to have expected. Rather than locking Canada into the F-35 program, it has pushed the country closer to a decision that American defense contractors have long feared: cancellation of the remaining F-35 order and the deliberate construction of a domestic aerospace manufacturing base through European partnerships. Saab's proposal explains why that option is now politically powerful. The Swedish company is offering 12,600 aerospace manufacturing jobs inside Canada. Full technology transfer that allows Canadian firms to manufacture major Gripen components domestically, final assembly lines on Canadian soil, and long-term maintenance and support infrastructure operated by Canadian workers in Canadian facilities. That structure would give Canada a sovereign fighter production capability rather than permanent dependence on foreign supply chains. The F-35 program offers something very different. More than 110 Canadian companies participate in the global F-35 supply chain, and those firms have generated about $2 billion in contracts since the program began. Those figures often get cited as proof of economic benefit, yet they tell only part of the story. Canadian companies produce components, not complete aircraft. Canada does not assemble F-35 jets, does not control the software or core technologies, and depends entirely on American-controlled supply chains for spare parts, maintenance approvals, and system upgrades through Washington. Saab's Gripen offer, by contrast, turns Canada into a manufacturing hub where Canadian workers build the aircraft, Canadian firms retain ownership of their contributions, and Canadian facilities anchor long-term maintenance and upgrade cycles. Saab is willing to make that offer because it needs market access. The Gripen is a capable fourth-generation plus fighter, yet it continues to lose market share to the F-35 across much of the world. Winning a Canadian contract with full domestic manufacturing would give Saab credibility and leverage when approaching other countries that want modern fighters without deep dependence on American defense infrastructure. For Canada, the appeal lies in how many problems this single decision could solve at once. Aging CF-18 fighters would be replaced with modern aircraft. Thousands of manufacturing jobs would be created. Domestic aerospace capacity would expand. Dependence on American defense suppliers would shrink. The political message would be unmistakable. External pressure does not dictate Canadian procurement choices. Military analysts continue to argue that the F-35 delivers fifth-generation capabilities and seamless interoperability within NORAD that no alternative can fully match. That technical argument remains valid. What Canadian politicians are weighing now goes beyond capability charts and radar signatures. They are asking whether the most advanced fighter in the world remains a smart investment when the supplier country repeatedly threatens Canadian sovereignty, trade relationships, and political autonomy. Defense procurement has never been only about aircraft performance. It is industrial policy, employment strategy, and foreign policy rolled into one decision. This is where American officials appear to have misjudged the political environment. When the United States president threatens annexation rhetoric, imposes sweeping tariffs, publicly insults Canadian leadership, and ties defense cooperation to purchasing American products, those actions make American defense contracts politically untenable. No Canadian Prime Minister can defend spending $19 billion on American fighter jets, while the American president openly questions Canada's independence and economic security. Mark Carney came to office with a clear promise to reduce Canada's dependence on the United States, diversify trade relationships, and strengthen national sovereignty. Continuing with the purchase of 72 additional F-35s under current conditions would directly contradict that mandate. Canceling the remaining F-35 order and redirecting those funds to Swedish Gripen jets built in Canada allows Carney to align policy with promises. It supports Canadian workers, builds domestic industry, and demonstrates resistance to external pressure, even if it means accepting aircraft that some experts view as technically less advanced. The ambassador's public comments about altering NORAD cooperation removed much of the political risk from that decision. If Canada walks away from the contract, the government can point directly to American threats as justification. That argument resonates with voters who increasingly view independence from American coercion as a national priority. The Canadian F-35 contract carries significance far beyond its price tag. Canada is an original development partner in the F-35 program, and its participation has helped legitimize the aircraft among other NATO allies. Canadian aerospace companies are embedded in the global supply chain, and Canada's commitment provides political reassurance to smaller allies weighing their own purchases. Losing Canada weakens that coalition and raises uncomfortable questions about the long-term stability of the program. From a financial perspective, the loss matters even more. The F-35's cost structure relies on spreading expenses across a large pool of international buyers. Fewer buyers mean higher per unit costs for everyone still in the program. Other countries are watching closely.